Have you ever seen a car with a rear end that looks like the hull of a boat? Not a concept car or a custom build, but a mass-produced model that legally roamed American roads for 3 full years. That's the third-generation Buick Riviera, better known as the Boattail. Born in the heat of the personal luxury car design race, the Boattail Riviera was Buick's bold attempt to redefine American elegance. It carried nostalgia, muscle car power, and a beauty born from bravery, even if the price was market confusion. In today's video, we'll rewind the clock to uncover why this controversial Boattail design was ever approved for mass production, what led to its commercial downfall, and why it's now considered an icon among classic car enthusiasts. By the late 1960s, the personal luxury car segment was booming in America. Ford Thunderbird, Pontiac Grand Prix, Oldsmobile Toronado, all were big names. These were large, stylish coupes built not for hauling families, but for showcasing personal style and status. Buick, a long-standing brand with a conservative image, suddenly found itself falling behind. The first-generation Riviera had made a splash in 1963, but by the end of the decade, its design felt outdated. GM realized that without a bold move, the Riviera would disappear in a sea of competitors. That's when legendary designer Bill Mitchell stepped in. With his philosophy, a car must be beautiful before it's fast, Mitchell aimed to reclaim Riviera's crown with a design unlike anything else. He turned to the past for inspiration, specifically the 1930s Auburn Speedsters with their long, tapered boat-tail rear ends. This retro flair, paired with the brute force of a big block V8, was meant to create a modern classic. Buick believed Americans would be drawn to something that evoked the golden age of luxury, with all the power and convenience of the present. At first glance, the 1971 to 73 Buick Riviera made people turn their heads, whether in admiration or confusion. From an engineering perspective, the boattail shape was an aerodynamic nightmare. The sloped rear and deeply raked rear glass created a vacuum effect, increasing drag instead of reducing it. But Bill Mitchell, GM's legendary designer, cared more about beauty than airflow. He famously said, "If a car is beautiful, you'll forgive everything else." The Riviera featured a long hood, sweeping fenders, and a body that tapered aggressively to the rear, a silhouette that was both muscular and elegant. Despite measuring over 217 inches long and weighing nearly 4,500 pounds, the Riviera didn't look bulky. Instead, it resembled a streamlined speedboat ready to launch forward. The boldness continued inside. Buick knew that a personal luxury car had to be both a style statement and a moving lounge. That's why the Boattail Riviera came packed with top-tier amenities for the early 70s. The dashboard was angled toward the driver, with capsule-style gauges inspired by aviation, a signature 2-spoke steering wheel, and an integrated AM/FM radio, creating the feel of a luxury cockpit. Plush leather seats, power-adjustable and deeply reclining, offered supreme comfort for long journeys. Air conditioning, power windows, remote adjustable mirrors, and even cruise control were all available. Buick also offered a wide array of two-tone interior color schemes, complemented by simulated wood grain accents, blending modern luxury with classic charm. For a two-door coupe, even the rear seat space was surprisingly generous. With such a bold exterior and upscale interior, the Boattail Riviera needed a heart strong enough to match, and Buick didn't disappoint. Under the long hood lay a 455 cubic inch V8 engine, part of GM's legendary big block family. This was the largest engine Buick ever installed in a passenger car. In 1971, the 455 V8 produced 315 horsepower and up to 460 pound-feet of torque, incredibly impressive numbers for the time. However, starting in 1972, the American auto industry shifted to SAE net power ratings, which dropped the official figures to around 250 to 260 horsepower. Still, the engine remained a torque monster at low RPMs, perfect for relaxed highway cruising. Paired with the renowned 3-speed turbo-hydromatic 400 automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, the Riviera delivered a smooth, quintessentially American luxury experience. Despite weighing nearly 2.5 tons, it could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 8.5 to 9 seconds, a respectable time for a luxury coupe of the early 1970s. Unlike muscle cars of the era that chased drag strip glory, the Riviera never tried to be the fastest car on the street. Instead, it embodied torque with tranquility. The deep, rich tone of the 455 V8, combined with excellent sound insulation, created the sensation of gliding down the boulevard in a luxury yacht. Of course, that power came at a cost. Fuel consumption. Averaging around 10 to 12 miles per gallon, the Riviera was far from economical, and that became one of its vulnerabilities as the looming fuel crisis approached. But the Riviera will thrill you with just one press of the throttle. But that burst of excitement is just the beginning. The Riviera isn't just powerful, it makes you feel like you've stepped into a different class the moment you take the wheel. With a full-frame chassis, double A-arm front suspension, and rear coil springs paired with a stabilizer bar, the Riviera prioritized smoothness over sporty handling. Its light power steering made it easy to maneuver around town, though it lacked feedback during high-speed cornering. In return, the car delivered a truly gliding experience on the open road, quiet, stable, and exceptionally well-insulated. A standout quality during any journey was its ability to isolate occupants from road noise and outside disturbances. Whether driving over rough pavement or through strong winds, passengers remained immersed in calm thanks to the heavy frame, thick sound insulation, and tightly sealed body. This set the Riviera apart from most conventional coupes. However, with a curb weight close to 4,800 pounds and an overall length of more than 18 feet, the Riviera wasn't easy to handle in crowded urban environments or tight parking lots. Rear visibility was compromised by the boat-tail design and steeply angled rear glass, a common criticism from drivers at the time. And it wasn't just the visibility. The entire boat-tail design became a double-edged sword for Buick. The boat-tail Riviera quickly ran into its biggest obstacle, the very market it aimed to impress. By the early 1970s, American consumers were changing. They were growing wary of cars that were too long, too heavy, and too fuel-thirsty, especially with looming concerns about gas prices and an energy crisis. The boat-tail design sharply divided public opinion. Some praised it as a styling masterpiece, but many saw it as strange, hard to see out the back, and too flashy. Traditional Buick buyers, who preferred understated elegance, felt the car came from another planet. To make matters worse, the Riviera's bold character was undercut by internal competition. At the same time, Oldsmobile's Toronado and Cadillac's Eldorado, both GM brands, were gaining market share with safer styling and front-wheel drive, leaving the Riviera behind in the tech race. Sales figures told a clear story. In 1971, Buick sold around 33,800 Rivieras. In 1972, the number dipped slightly to 33,200, and by 1973, despite some refinements, sales only reached 34,000 units, well below expectations. These numbers were significantly lower than the early success of the first-generation Riviera. For a flagship model, it was a troubling sign. Buick realized that this bold design no longer aligned with market demands. By 1974, Buick introduced the next-generation Riviera, and the Boattail was gone. Its signature tapered tail was replaced with a more squared-off, practical rear end, aligning with a market now shifting toward economy, simplicity, and lower risk. The body proportions also changed. Shorter overall length, wider stance, and a lower center of gravity made the Riviera appear more modern in the eyes of the time. However, this shift also meant Riviera lost part of its soul. The boat-tail design, while divisive, was one of Buick's rare bold statements, a moment when the brand stepped out of its comfort zone and declared that different is beautiful. The next generation sold better, but made little impact in terms of design legacy. Many believe Buick's decision to abandon the boat-tail was inevitable, but also a missed opportunity. At a time when American automakers were becoming more cautious and formulaic, the boat-tail Riviera stood as proof that daring creativity still had a place. Though it only lasted for 3 short years, the boat-tail Riviera left an indelible mark on American automotive history. Rather than being forgotten like many other market flops of its era, the 1971 to 1973 Riviera has been re-evaluated as a misunderstood gem, a product ahead of its time rather than simply out of place. In terms of design, the boat-tail stands as a prime example of GM's experimental spirit in the early 1970s. At a time when automakers were becoming increasingly conservative due to emissions regulations, rising fuel prices, and growing pressure from Japanese imports, Buick's decision to release such an unconventional model was rare and commendable. That very boldness has earned the boat-tail a greater appreciation with age. Today, the boat-tail Riviera is gaining status as a sought-after collector's item. Original condition examples, especially the 1971 models with higher power output and fewer emissions constraints, are increasing in value. Prices for well-kept boat-tails now range from $20,000 to $50,000, while highly restored or modified versions have fetched over $70,000 at specialty auctions. Beyond monetary value, the Riviera represents a fading design philosophy, the willingness to take risks in pursuit of beauty. In today's market, where many new cars look alike and design choices are safe, the boat-tail Riviera stands out as a symbol of individuality and identity, a trait few vintage cars truly possess. Moreover, the boat-tail appears regularly at prestigious classic car events like Pebble Beach, Radwood, and regional Concours d'Elegance competitions. It captures attention not only for its appearance, but also for its backstory, a remnant from a time when GM still allowed design studios to express bold creativity. The boat-tail Riviera was never built for the masses, but for those who admire classic styling, celebrate uniqueness, and cherish timeless values. It remains an irreplaceable American coupe, nostalgic yet inspiring. The boat-tail Riviera wasn't a sales success. It wasn't built for the mainstream or in line with its time, but that's exactly what makes it special. The 1971 to 1973 Riviera proves that sometimes the courage to be different, even if not immediately accepted, can leave a lasting legacy. Today, when people look back at the boat-tail, they no longer call it odd. They celebrate it as rolling artwork, a reminder that the auto industry once had moments of boldness and inspiration. So what about you? What do you think of the Boattail Riviera? A misunderstood masterpiece or a design misstep? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss the next story about strange and unforgettable cars.